Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, I'm very excited. This is my very first Patreon-a-thon ever. And I decided to try this, emphasize try, to see if I can't maneuver a little faster through the suggestion list here on Patreon. And so don't forget to look at the chapters down below, because I noticed this list has got kind of all kinds of genres that do fit under rock and metal, as we know. So you're going to probably find the one that you like. And if you don't see yours here, that's okay. I'm just going to see if I can't keep knocking these out every couple of weeks to try to keep the Patreon list in the widgets greased and stuff and moving forward. So, that being said, we're starting right now. You know where the links are for the support? Of course you do, because you already support me. Remember, chapters are down below. Let's do this. The very first track is Electric Body, Darko US. All right.
Oh yeah!
This is absolutely crazy. Now, what I can't differentiate a little bit is the textures that they opened up with the track. This dark, gritty, it sounds like, it's like digimetal, is what I like to call it, is if they are using some kind of module or something to give us this kind of ambient, dark, digi, crushing kind of vibe, and then they come in with the guitars and the drums, as a technique, as a texture in it. So I couldn't tell. Now, when the drums come in, obviously, it's all in. The kick drum is so punchy and so meaty that that's taking the focus. But here's what I find totally unique about this. I've never heard this growling technique and stuff shift into so many different, well, I'm going to have to use the word textures again. Now I don't know if it's done in post. The producer in me says that some of those changes happen in post, in the sense that it has nothing to do with the ability of the lead singer on this or the lead performer on this, but sometimes, I've learned there's something called a pig squeal versus this and versus that, so it doesn't mean that he doesn't embody all those changes, but I heard about 3 or 4 different texture changes in his voice going through this section, and it's just absolutely insanely cool. Okay, that was sick. I loved how they give us a little bit of a neck jerk with that little change up in how they're playing the rhythm, and there was a little bit of a cut time thing that happened there. But I do want to go back really quick and just kind of like hit on that, what I had said before was kind of a digi-metal vibe. And I'm pretty sure I'm wrong, because I just got through doing an interview with Misha Mansour, and we talked about a little bit of those darker, heavier tones that come up when you drop tuned guitars a lot of times, and the rubberiness and stuff like that. So there's a very good chance that that's what it is, and it's just me being an old guy that's not catching it. But I so dug the heaviness and the darkness of those guitars. And to me, though, the bottom end, without a doubt, was completely owned by the bass. That's the one thing that was just keeping, I always looking for the bass in these mixes and stuff, and it was nice and fat, nice at the bottom. This was a sick track. All right, so next up, I'm popping up my list. I'm telling you, I'm going to be popping my list up just like this. I'm highlighting. This next track is called The 7, and I think it's the name of the band is Secret Chefs 3. I don't know. I'm just going to pop this in to Spotify, because that's how I'm doing this. I'm just going, let's go. Yeah, it looks like it. It looks like the band name is The 7, and this is Secret Chefs 3. Let's do this. All right. Okay, this is obviously not the kind of rock and metal that I was expecting in this journey, but it's totally fitting, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I love the Middle Eastern rhythm patterns that are in there, as well as the percussion that we're using. Yes, there's a drum in there, but there's also India-based percussions, or Middle East, or not Middle Eastern. I forget how do you call that region? That India, Pakistani, percussion unit going on there, and of course some of the instrumentation. But I'm listening to this. One of the telltale signs for me about the style of music this is having that constant. There's always a drone note in it, and in this case it's da, da, da. That note right there is the constant, which is all the way through, which is predominant in a lot of music, traditional and cultural music from that region. But here's what I'm listening to. I mean, I love all the intricate time and meter that's going on in there. There's a name for that, and I'm not going to get it right, so I'm not going to say it. I want to say conical or something like that. Forgive me. I'm a composer, but I'm not a ethnomusicologist or something. I don't know everything, obviously. But it's so unique. But I've got to tell you something. You sit there and you go, where do a lot of prog metal bands, prog rock metal bands, especially bands like, let's say, Tool or something like that, how are some of the drummers influenced in this particular styles they play? And this is where this goes way beyond dating. What genre came first kind of a vibe for me, as much as it is like here's some roots right here you can pull from and then take and put into so many different directions. What's making my head go around in circles briefly is like I'm sitting here, if I'm reading a piece of music, it's one thing. But in my mind, these musicians memorizing all of this is mind-boggling. It's very much that like Mike Portnoy and those extreme kinds of bands that just have incredible rhythm change and meter changes. One thing I want to say before I jump right back in, I love where the drum is in the mix, as well as part of the arrangement and stuff like that. Like the drums is giving it to me that extra little punch up, you know, in maybe not being a particular genre, but a punch up and maybe rocking up a little more. And listen to that bass player, man. The bass, a lot of stuff is being done in unison between all the instruments, but for some reason, you know, I'm listening to everything. I love whatever the instrument is. I can hear the strings, and I can hear the bowing kind of vibe, and that's what I listen for in instruments. And this, when I listen to stuff like this, but that bass player's cooking just as well. God, that was totally different, totally new. I fully dug it. I really like the introduction of, at the very end there, which somewhere in, for me, hearing that pad, that string pad that came in, a keyboard player that came in to set some ambience and stuff like that, I was like, man, I would love to have caught some of that a lot early on, but it's still a great piece. A couple of things I want to mention briefly before we get on to the next track. There were when it came back in, there was a couple of instruments that started doing some lead work, and I like how they kind of changed off and stuff like that, and I like how they kept organic to the rhythm. You know, that sense, the human feeling of the lead work that was happening there, I really, really super dug. But I also love when they take, now here's where I'm not too sure if whether they took a cultural instrument, one of the strumming instruments, and just overdrove it to give it some of that dirty guitar sound. So I love that particular punch into the texture as well. It's like it was like a major hook section, you know, for that arrangement and stuff. I really super dug that. I just couldn't tell if it was guitar or not, only because I think my ears were so fixated on all the instruments that I was trying to, is this a, and then all of a sudden I hear the distortion. I go, wow, did they take one of the cultural instruments and run it through an overdrive or something? I really like this track. I like it too for me because I'm kind of like a rhythmic ceremonial ritual kind of dude. So if it's got a lot of rhythms and stuff and it keeps my head bobbing, you know. Definitely different than the first track. So let's talk about the third track here. What's the next one that I'm doing? So now we're going to dive into, let me see. This is Decapitated, Spheres of Madness. Okay, so let's do that. Let me get it rigged up. What do we got here? There it is. Let me start my machine. Let's do this, guys. This is, sorry guys, let me move this over. This is Decapitated, Spheres of Madness. All right. Okay, so here's what's really badass about this that I really dig. First of all, it sounds like it was a real intimate recording in the sense like it was maybe a small studio, maybe. I love the way the drums sound so tight but packed. It's not like a big bombastic room with overheads and stuff like that, but it's really in your face. But here's what I love about what's happening in the drums along with the guitar arrangement. So far, I've been hearing the kicks doing nothing but 16ths all the way through, just firing. Which, the guitar riffs, which is really super cool, their syncopation that's being played, where the accents are like that, will naturally fall where those 16ths are, because they're actually playing in that grid of 16ths, except their accents are, the stop starts are also syncopated. So what makes this really cool for me is that while I'm listening, and those guitars are so freaking throaty, while I'm listening to the riffs and stuff, it's not one of those like neck jerking kicks that are matching the riff that would cause you to go I think that would be, just for myself, might take this song out of the pocket for me. Not that I'm some kind of an aficionado, a pocket aficionado, but I just love the fact that the drummer's been just cooking on these 16ths, and you know that their riff compositions in their syncopation takes advantage of that, so it keeps me focused in here as I'm listening to the rhythm pattern. But then now it's like I can kind of sit back and not get, like, you know, sonic jerked, if you know, by the intensity of the syncopation, if the kicks were just hitting those directly. If you kind of understand what I'm saying. Love this guy's voice. It is so I can't do it, but it's freaking amazing. Oh my goodness, a fade. I love that. It's like a slow pull of the needle. I don't know why I put it that way. Okay, so I just got through saying about how well and how sick that's all really super locked up and stuff with those really straight 16ths. Now, there's a very good possibility that they did open up with a syncopated kick. I just maybe wasn't quite dialed into listening to it, but they definitely set me straight after that, because as soon as I started, there was syncopated, the syncopation of the riff was now, the kick was also joining that and stop start, you know, but what I loved is they kind of vindicated what I said, because it's like playing that riff. They said, no, watch, here's this, but then the riff continued, and then he went straight into the 16ths again. I was like, okay, I know I make mistakes on my channel, and I say stupid shit every once in a while because I'm not able to listen to, you know, you guys know, first time listening, I'm trying to get as much out as I can in this and, you know, be authentic about it, and I miss stuff or sometimes I really miss stuff, but I loved how they just cleaned it up on that, and they just went, no, wait, hang on for a second, dude. And I also loved the harmonies too. The guitar playing was great, but I loved the harmonies that were being played in the second half of the riffs. I thought were sick. Okay, so now we're going to go into a completely different shift in gears. I have done this band without a doubt on my channel. So this is going to be a little different than what we just got through hearing. And this is going to be Streetlight Manifesto, the hands that thieve. Okay, here we go. All right.
No guilt till I was caught and I was told that I was guilty. And even then I wasn't really sure, yeah. The thing I found was guilt itself, or maybe it was something else. Frustration at the fact that I was ever caught at all. I told a lie that multiplied, and by the time I realized it, I'd given up everything I ever loved, yeah. The thing you like when you're looking back is the pressure, the fear that you have to act. Yeah, everything is clear when you're looking at the past, oh no. They shouted, court should be adjourned because the jury are fools. And the judge can't decipher his left from his right or his right from his wrong. And we will fight the hand that gives, we will not turn the other cheek. This is no threat, it is a promise we will keep. So what's the point pretending when we see behind the curtain and there's nothing much to see? Oh yeah. Felt no pain till I was down and I was told that I was bleeding. And even then I knew I wasn't done, yeah. Cause the wounds I get, they will just collect, ensuring that I won't forget. Reminders of the battles that I've lost and that I've won. And I will fight till I have died, for all my enemies are allies. And even then I will sleep with an open eye, yeah. Cause the night is long and our foes so strong, but I know that the road we're traveling on, it only seems so dark because we've almost reached the dawn. Oh no.
Great section. That horn section is amazing. Now, for me, as I'm listening to this, because I don't have a real rich knowledge of genres and stuff like that, I think the first time I listened to them, as I'm detecting now, it's got kind of this punk ska thing going. I was thinking for a second, where am I hearing this kind of performance? I started thinking it's kind of a Green Day thing, which is all I have in my very puny little reference, of bands I've listened to. But this, without a doubt, this is just an absolutely huge production, and the horn section is phenomenal in their arrangements. I don't know who the arranger is for that, or if they all just sit there and they write their parts together, but it's just unreal. I love the fact too that I would kind of say the secondary predominant instrument are acoustic guitars. So since I'm not familiar with the genre and a lot of their work, I don't know the different textures that they use for their guitar work and stuff like that. But it's such a sick punk poppy, not pop music, but just uplifting, powerful piece of music. But the brass section is like a second band within the band, the way I hear it, Excuse me. And it represents so much of the tone range that I'm listening to. There's the bass, there's the guitar, there's the drums, there's some percussion going on there. The guy's voice is fantastic. And the melody's great, but the thing is for me, I'm listening to, the trumpets, and it sounds like trombone and saxophone. Is there a bass sax in there and stuff like that, that are holding their own arrangements while still the guitars and the bass are doing another set of arrangements. And that's what's magical about a band like Streetlight Manifesto. And I don't have a lot of experience with other bands like them, so I'm just over the moon with this particular style. And actually, I'm going to save their Spotify page because I think I want to go through some more of their music.
I don't care if I lose because my heroes did too. They shouted, "What should be adjourned?" because the jury are fools. And the judge can't decipher his left from his right or his right from his wrong. And we will bite the hand that feeds, we will not turn the other cheek. This is no fate, it's a promise we will keep. So what's the point pretending when we see behind the curtain and there's nothing much to see? Oh yeah. The things you said when I was down and I was tired of it. The words you spoke, they brought me home. When it was time to fight, we chose a side, but everyone knew that something didn't feel right. So we stood our ground and waited for a sign.
You know, this is one of those tracks that it's a lot for me to wrap my head around and give a real good breakdown that it deserves because I know that I'm going to miss things. This change up that they did on the end was so cool. If you listen to the bass, his bass was that was playing, with this kind of laid back rhythm that they finally let us off the hook a little bit. But they didn't let us off the hook a little bit as far as arrangements were concerned. There was 3 different layers of vocal arrangements that were happening, with different rhythm patterns and stuff, combined with the horn arrangements and everything. I love the authenticity of the recording. I mean, there were things that were there, like for instance, when the little wood block and the shaker stopped shaking, it wasn't like there was a decision to edit out a little bit of the shaker still moving in the background. And to me, that's what gives this song just complete life. It's like when the couple of times that I've heard Streetlight Manifesto, it's like it's not this overly, at least just the couple of tracks that I've heard, it's not this overly gleaned or overly produced pieces of work. There's so much authenticity in the performance of the horns and all the musicians doing what they're doing. But this sound, this has got to be an incredibly wonderful band to see live. Energy-wise, I remember I did do the one video that I did do was off of a live show, and I was like, I was sweating for the guys, but they were having the best time in their lives. And here I am listening to this on Spotify, and I could feel that same energy coming out of it. The arrangements were just great. It's like I said, it's like 2 bands in one. when you have these, incredible layered arrangements, like I said, between vocals, guitar, bass, and drums, and then you have the whole horn section that can carry on their own conversation, woven in to that kind of composition. Yeah, I guess in general. And that's when we start getting into where my brain starts to spin and stir as far as orchestral works and orchestrations, because now you've got 6 or 7 different, units of musicians, woodwinds and strings and brass and percussion and stuff that you, and the harps and the pianos and stuff that you can really build on. And these guys maximize that potential without getting over toasted, if that's the great way to put it. So I loved every bit of it. Okay, guys, we're just going to keep going. The next one here, this is another bit of a change up here for us as far as like starting off with the heavier metal stuff. Let's do some Faith No More, Midlife Crisis. Remember, these are all Patreon suggestions that I'm catching up on and getting our ducks in a row here. So let me do this. All right. Whoops, sorry. And find. How come you're not responding to me, my friend? Faith No More. Oh, there we go. Ha! Let's do this. All right. Make that face there. It's the second I made that face because it was a unique choice of notes that they kind of swirled around with that background harmony and stuff that kind of made it feel dissonant and a little uncomfortable. I mean, it's perfectly within the scale and the key, but they had already established kind of a texture that when they went down there, it kind of makes you go, ooh, kind of a thing. Real straightforward. This kind of bass playing, bum, 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 dun, 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 just keeping it just down, laying it down, keeping it really strong. I love the opening with the toms, kind of giving us a little bit more of, whenever I hear drums that open up with toms in the pattern, anything of that nature, very anthemic kind of a vibe, the way it starts off. Something else that's really super cool. I don't know when this was released, but it has that kind of 80s synth vibe in the back where you hear those pads. It only reminds me of that because of the choice of the sound that they used for that, creeping up in there. And also the crunch guitars. So this is a super laid back, after everything I've been listening to, this is a super perfect track for me right now, but this is really laid back, but it's still powerful. It's still really strong. This is one of those songs that you do crank up, and it's very approachable. You know what I'm saying? Especially like listening to the songs the way we've been listening to them through here. We've heard quite a bit rhythmically of different rhythm arrangements, and this one is really super approachable. And I love the technique and the textures and the vocals and the rhythmic arrangement that he's performing in. Of course, there's some engineering trickery that's going around there in and out of the hook, and then of course when the power chords come in, very straightforward but super powerful. Yes, goodness, another fade out heaven. I love this. Okay, so that change up about 40 seconds after I came back from the break, that kind of reminded me a little bit of it had a little bit of the production that I might hear from like Trent Reznor. You know, the change up of the fact that they went into a real super kind of digital vibe with some of the effects, and what he did, or what they did in their decision to trick out their the snare drum and change that whole emotional kind of vibe up, and it got a little more ambient and it got a little more ethereal because it seemed like they added another synth behind it to kind of spread out the sound a little more. So you know, the object of this journey was to change it up that way. But I love the fact that this was, I needed square off music, you know, and it was powerful, but I needed that to be squared off and stuff. But I loved, like I said, the vocal technique and also in the engineering in that and what they were doing to keep me interested, you know, as I was listening through, that was done really, really well. But like I said, you know, that little turnaround where the snare got all weirded out, got a little more thinner and splashier and bigger, that little zone kind of sounded a little Trent Reznor to me. But I dug that. I know that Faith No More is ginormous band and everything, and they have quite an eclectic discography as I've been going through, you know, the journey with them. All right, guys, now it looks like I might be getting into a little trouble here. This is called Every Time I Die by Planet Shit. Okay, I don't know what I'm in for here, but let's do this. This is Planet Shit, Every Time I Die. All right.
No future with a racist past, but we can't acknowledge that. So we burn a closet, break all the flag. We're waving high. We're waving high. We're waving high. The pigs are fat with pride. The karma wheel is flat. Even the Ten Commandments crack. There's no law when the outlaw wears a badge. So throw a brick. Throw a brick. Throw a brick. The tool becomes an instrument. Whose fucking side are you on? Whose fucking side are you on? When all the lies that were done are washed away in the blood. Whose fucking side are you on? What kind of heaven awaits someone so cruel and afraid? But they gained in hell. You could be living well in your private hell. So give them rope. Let's give them rope. Yeah, give them rope. On the guillotine. Better yet, the guillotine. Oh yeah, the guillotine. Honesty's not a virtue when you're a lying piece of shit. You're a soulless hypocrite. What kind of heaven awaits someone so cruel and vain? Love is not a virtue when you're a heartless piece of shit. You're a soulless hypocrite. Monsters, we stand no chance.
Anything but Planet Shit to me. This sound was bone crushing. This is as hard and bone crushing on so far on this particular show that I'm on right now with our Patreonathon. This was so far the most bangingest, in-your-face crushing production I've heard thus far. Who is this singer? Man, is this guy giving everything into it. I mean, just everything. Everything's in your face. So in other words, you know, there's tracks that you listen to that have breathing room in what I would call it, you know, or in the mastering. And this one looks like it's just pumped and loudness normalized to the very top, and it's just hitting on all pistons right now. The guitar arrangements are fucking masterful on this. I'm not one to really, you know, I hear a lot of music as I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tracks on this channel and stuff like that. But I have to admit that this one, it took me to a place where I stopped being like listening as a reactor and I started getting into the track. You know, and that's not to say now don't, you know, I hope nobody gets offended that their favorite band, I don't feel that way or whatever the case. But I'm just saying it got to a place where I was going, damn, this is just a banging song. But what took me over the top is actually the performance of the singer. I don't know why. I just felt his like everything and every bit of emotion that he was singing was just ripping out from the inside of his guts and coming out. And it was powerful. Now, I will say on an engineering thing I thought was really cool is there was a time where they kept on playing around where riff was on one side, vocal here, and then it kicked on the other side, vocal on this, and then riff on this side. They played around with it. So obviously in production they're keeping an eye on, you know, some kind of the dynamics and the nuances of that and presenting that in such a powerful track. The fact that they presented that and did that in such a powerful track was kind of like they didn't even have to do that extra work. They already had me nailed in on the hook and stuff. But this is so powerful, and it's so in your face.
Hands on your heads, you fucking monsters! We stand no chance without your hands! I want hands! What kind of death can you buy that's any different than mine? Give him rope! Let's give him rope! Yeah, give him rope! Oh, the guillotine! Bloody heck, the guillotine! Oh yeah, the guillotine! Fuck you! Die! Fuck you! Die! Fuck you! Die! Die!
It is such a tormented piece of artwork as far as I'm concerned. Now, I tried to listen to the lyrics and dig in a little more, and without a doubt, this is really, really super heavy. So I'm hearing about, you know, fucking die and death and suicide. You're dead inside. Of course, I'm not going to make any comment on that because I'm not reading the lyrics and stuff. But without a doubt, the energy of the singer, and especially in that section that came at around 3 minutes in the song, where the rhythm twisted around, and it twisted around like in a tormenting kind of way. This was perfectly produced for the energy and the output of the band. You know, guitar playing is really super clean. It's beyond talking about the musicianship when we're listening to bands like this, because you don't sound like shit as a musician and get to the level of producing and recording as these guys did. And I don't know nothing about the band. I don't know what they're based on and stuff like that, but it was gnarly, tormenting, and honest. If that's anything I could say about this reaction, that's what pulled for me on it, and that's super badass. Okay, next up. Okay, I don't know if it's called NOFX or NOFX. I don't know. And the name of the track is Linoleum. So let me see if it'll load up here on my Patreon. You know, I wonder if this journey working out for you guys the way I'm doing things here. It's different, isn't it? You know, kind of a little like what I do on Twitch. I just hit roll and run, you know, and then I just fix it in the mix. I just fix it in the editing. So let's do this. The next track on my Patreon-a-thon is by the band NOFX. I'm going to say it's just NOFX, and the name of the track is Linoleum. All right. reason why I didn't stop, because I realized at one point I looked over and said the song's only 2:10. Okay, so this is my naivete that I'm about to show. I don't know if this sounds like it's punk. I have no reference to pull from. You know, remember like when punk really started killing it in the 70s and stuff, and was very underground. First of all, the stamina of the musicians. If this is the style, if this is punk and all their music is like that, the stamina of these musicians have got to be insane. What I really dialed in on first was the drummer and the drum sound. The engineering was sick. Now, I don't know, because of my itty-bitty experience with punk, this production is really super clean. I really can hear every little bit of the dynamics of the instruments. But, you know, the drummer's you know, just killing it. There was a little section where he just, what I would consider, went into standard time, that he was just really ripping in double time. But what I really loved about this, and once again, I'm not going to compare this to Green Day, because Green Day is the only thing that I know that has that kind of upbeat metal kind of vibe and stuff. But what I love is the fact that they take something so powerful and so driving, and they have harmonies through. I think most of the track was harmonized, you know, okay, maybe half of the track was harmonized, even the melody and the main singing. But when they got into the hook part of the songs, they really went out there and they reached out to really fill it with some really great harmonies. I think it had to do with a little bit with the chord turnaround, but I don't know. I guess the genre in of itself is expansive enough, I guess, where that's part of it. And I really super dug that, especially that one little turnaround they did. I was like, oh, that was super cool. Like when they resolved one of the notes in the harmonies to be a little more uplifting. But I really super dug the energy and the power of that. But the stamina of the musicians on this is insane, because they were just absolutely firing. This was great for me. I fully dug this, man. Linoleum by NOFX. So that was a good call. All right, let's keep going. You know what I got next? There's a band here called Cold Kingdom. And this one is called The Devil in Me. So stand by. I got to save this file. Let's just keep going. This is Cold Kingdom, The Devil in Me. Man, they gave the bottom end some sick love on the mix on this. I mean, this is so warm at the bottom, but really powerful. I love the, you know, that riff that's playing, but the drums kind of driving forward and staying a little more tighter in the pocket instead of being right on top of that riff. And to me, that's what gives that riff even more power. This voice is incredible. This is crystal clear power. You know what I'm saying? These high notes that he's hitting, I'm not a vocal coach, you guys know that. But I love when they get into the hook here. This is the second time we were into the hook. What are we at, 1:50? So this is constructed. This is like what I would consider pop song construction. You guys have heard me say this before. In it to a minute to win it. Get that hook in there. And they really hook us really hard. I also love the fact that behind this, I am hearing just every now and then the kind of like an analog synth pad with a little bit of support to give it a little bit more of a dynamic vibe. It's not really super present, but there was a point where the musicians kind of stopped for a second. I can hear a tail end of it because I was wondering what was filling up some of the tones on that. But this melody too, this guy's intervals in this melody are absolutely outstanding. I love the room ambience that they gave the kit on this. There was a really big, fat, like overhead ambience that was really laid onto the kit and stuff. It gave us a big, fat, rich sound. This was a bigger, more ambient kind of vibe. It wasn't a really stone cold cut and dry kind of, you know, approach on the arrangement. Even the riffs were connected. You know what I mean? There wasn't the riffs weren't like da da da. You know, there was a little bit that just kind of, you know, it wasn't that really super quick, tight, you know, choppy end. You know, I mean, call it composer, we call it a staccato kind of vibe. And but once again, over the hook, especially in this last time out, I could really hear the influence of the synth behind it. But I mean, the way I'm listening to it, I'm going, how is that getting so fat and so round in there? But I'm going to go right back into one thing. It says what. La, la, da. Okay, so that's in my head. But while that was happening, that synth, there was another secondary melody happening with the synth off to this side that was a really great accompaniment to it. But at the same token, it seemed like, you know, the left hand could have been, you know, still working, holding down, you know, the root of that, da, 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 which might be that note, da, 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 you know, that could have been. I was trying to dig it out. But I loved how they did that and how they actually merged that into the mix and stuff. That was absolutely stupid. I was really pulled into it. And then the last thing I want to say about it is, da-da-da-da, ticka-da-da-da, ticka-da-da. It's in my head, like I said about another track earlier, the drums is, boom, pow, boom, pow. You know, and on this journey, I've been so grinded with, you know, syncopated kicks to riff and stuff like that, that when I hear this, it makes the riff really pump out and punch out. So, let's see if I can fit one more in here, guys. Let's stand by. Let's see what do we got here. What do I got? I got one more here. Oh, Avenged Sevenfold is my last one for this particular show. So stand by. Let me punch it into Spotify, and it comes up right here. So let's get ready to do this. This is Avenged Sevenfold. The track is Save Me. All right.
something we said? Is it something we said to them? Is it something we said? I'm trapped in a bio world where the endings are the same as every other. We're only here today.
How do I do a reaction to this? There's so much going on. These guys are so freaking musical. You know, I think I may have mentioned before that, you know, I can hear these deeper influences of, like, you know, Queens, ELO, Styx, and stuff in their production and stuff like that. But they bring those influences and they throw it right into the blender of well, I don't know what year this album was released, but with the production and the style and with those influences that they bring in and stuff, with the melodic work, with the guitars that's going on. But then they go ahead and they turn around and they'll give you that just as you're gliding in this kind of, like, for me, it would be more like it's bringing me back as an old guy, you know, to those more intense prog rock, you know, types of compositions, like of the bands that I just mentioned before. And it's just extraordinary because I know that Avenged Sevenfold has, you know, an incredible following, and the appreciation I believe the fans have for this kind of composition is so well deserved. Excuse me. Sorry, is so well deserved because it's connoisseurish. You know what I'm saying? When you get to that level of prog metal and prog rock and stuff like this and what they're doing here, it's like there's so much going on there. It's not like you listen to it once and go, yeah, it's a hit, it's not a hit, or I like it or not. It already gets me to a place where I need to listen to this again and really rinse in it. I mean, I don't know that I can do justice in reacting right now, but it's just so fucking Avenged Sevenfold. That's so powerful.
Losing my only dream. I can use some guiding light, some place to go. You hear me? Let me know. Ever since the day you left, my fate's been set unknown. This path alone, so much to see tonight. So why'd you close your eyes? Why can't I shut mine? Is it something we did? Is it something we did to them? Is it something we did? Trapped in a bio world where the endings are the same as every other. We're only here today. I'm losing my only dream. I can use some guiding light, some place to go. If you hear me, let me know. If you hear me, let me know.
It's just amazing how they go through these incredibly whimsical, wonderful melodies and then keep lurching us back into the heaviness with their production and stuff like that. It's such a fine line these guys are writing, and they're pulling it off so incredibly.
help me find my way. No pulse inside of me, stone cold lips and heresy, all rising to a degree, losing who I wanna be. You'll find out right now. He may be out of his mind, but someday you will find the sanity's left us all blind and dragged us all behind. A moment seen through those eyes, crystal blue disguise. They say that all beauty must die. I say it just moves on. If you'd only open your mind, then someday you will find insanity left us behind and walk right through the dark. I can see the pictures clear as yesterday. Pictures on my own. I can hear the voices begging you to stay, but no, you're not alone. I'm trapped in a vile world where the endings are the same as every other. We're only here today. I'm losing my only dream. I can use some guiding light, some place to go. If you hear me, let me know. If you hear me, let me know. Tonight we all die young. 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 Tonight we all die. Tonight we all die young.
Of course they had to end with that flurry there. I was just served up a Michelin star rating piece of music. I'm sorry. So musical, so much to say about it, but I can't formulate the words to talk about not only the musicianship. I'm losing my mind about the drummer's capabilities. Every single one of these musicians are outstanding, but the melody and the composition and the harmony, the song structure, this has got to be, somebody tell me, this has got to be part of a musical, like a rock opera theater piece. It is so massive, and it's such a great joy to listen to. And you saw me get out of my skin going, is he going to go to that note? Is he going to go to that note? And he did. And I was just like, God, that is taking you on a journey and just guiding you through hope and then a little darkness and despair. That was so powerful. I don't know. God, maybe I should get one of them on for a podcast. What do you think? I think that'd be badass if I get one of these musicians on here. Just any one of them. I don't care. It's just, they're all brilliant. I'd talk to anyone. I'm just a little old man with a podcast. Who should I talk to? Anyhow, my camera's blinking because I'm about to run out of card space. Thank you so much. This was a lot. The chapters are down below. Let me know, Patreon members, how this went, what your thoughts were, what I could do better or something. But thank you so much for hanging out. And I will be breaking these up and releasing them on the main channel in the weeks to come. So don't worry about, just you're going to be hanging on to your own stuff over here. I'll be showing love a little bit out there on the main channel as well. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. And I really did enjoy doing this. Even though it's a little more choppier in the editing and stuff, I really dug it because I went through all kinds of musical journeys. So you guys take care. Have a killer everything. All right. See ya.